Order of operations with symbols of inclusion. What a mouthful. Symbols of inclusion are basically using parentheses, brackets, braces. Parentheses are what we're the most familiar with. We see these in all of our writing and books and magazines and things like that, as well as math. Brackets are more square. Braces are these funny things that teachers sometimes make that just look like sideways birds or something like that. But sometimes you'll see stacks of them and you're just like, what on earth do I do with that? So this first one I'm going to show you only includes parentheses, but symbols of inclusion is just a fancy way to say brackets, braces, parentheses. So don't worry about that. With please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, or parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, subtract. We're just going to jump right in and we're going to start with parentheses. Well, there's lots of parentheses. So where do I start? Let's use the funnel method. I like the funnel method of solving a little bit as we go and organizing our work. So we're going to show our work underneath as we go. So as a teacher, this is what I would want to see if I'm asking you to show your work. You ready? Okay. So right off the bat, I can go ahead and divide 8 divided by 2. Multiply divide is a little lower on the list. However, I still, since it's not really involved in the parentheses, it's really okay if you want to solve that right away and just clean that up. Okay, I have 3 sets of parentheses, so I'm going to go ahead and keep them inside the parentheses just in case that means something a little later. So let's take a peek. So we have 3 minus 6, which is negative 3. So again, I'm keeping it inside the parentheses. 8 plus 2 is 10. I have a minus symbol. I don't want to miss that. 3 plus 1 is 4. And then I have a 4 that's just kind of hanging out. Okay, right off, I'm noticing a few things. These parentheses, yes, they qualify as parentheses, but this time we've already completed the operation that's inside of the parentheses. These parentheses stand out for a different reason now. These say 2 things. Hey, don't forget this minus and this 3, we go together. So don't forget, it's really important, parentheses, parentheses, it's important, look at me. The other thing that they represent is multiplication. So when we have 2 numbers enveloped in parentheses simply next to each other with no symbols at all, the assumption is multiplication. I was going to say parentheses. The assumption is multiplication. So there we go. Now looking at that, I'm going to move forward. I have parentheses I've done. There are no exponents. Multiply, divide. I do see some multiplication up here. So let's go through and simplify any multiplication and potentially drop some parentheses if possible. 4 plus. Okay, this plus right away. I'm not there yet. I'm not at the add and subtract. This says negative 3 times 10. There is multiplication here. We're going to simplify that. So I'm going to bring my 4 down and my plus. Negative 3 times a positive 10 is a negative 30. Just due to the nature of all of these symbols, I want to put my negative 30 in parentheses so I don't just blend those two together and just get my brain a little bit more confused than it might already be. Minus 4 times 4. This 4 on the back that's literally just sitting there with no symbols or anything, because it's touching or just sitting up against the set of parentheses, we're going to assume multiplication. So we're going to say minus, and then 4 times 4 is 16. I don't feel the need to put parentheses around the 16 because there aren't multiple symbols. So now I'm left with adding and subtracting. Remember, I want to go left to right when it comes down to adding and subtracting. So I'm going to do 4 plus a negative 30. 4 plus a negative 30 is the same thing as 4 minus 30. So that's negative 26, bringing down my minus 16. And then finally, I'm just going to subtract 16 from a negative 26. I'm already way down the negative number line, way down at negative 26. And I'm subtracting again, which means I'm going to the left even more. So really, I'm going more deep into the negative territory. So with that said, I'm going to be adding these two numbers together, but I'm keeping it negative. So negative 26 and negative 16 make negative 42. And that is the final result for this particular order of operations question. Hopefully that makes sense with symbols of inclusion.